Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Esoteric podcast. Today, I have Oliver Lynch over here. He's a great guy, and I'm going to let him introduce himself, honestly.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on the Esoteric podcast. I'm definitely an esoteric guy, so I think we're in the right place here. My name is Oliver Lynch. I am a social anxiety coach. Very simply, it just means I help people overcome social anxiety, be socially successful. I personally came from a very, very dark place myself. I was, really, really down in life, like suicidal, terribly crippled with social anxiety. And I was able to find a way out of that through a lot of inner healing, a lot of inner work. And, I've got a lot of experience in the spiritual self-help community, and a lot of philosophy and spirituality, a lot of these different things, very, very deeply invested into. And I think what, for the listeners here, whoever's going to be listening to this, I think you'll find some really unique and thought-provoking topics and just areas of conversation that you may not hear otherwise. So I'm excited for you guys to listen in. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. Me and Mark are the same age. That's pretty cool. I guess I don't, if you have any questions about me, I think that's probably a pretty good intro.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So I'm going to start off this. I always ask one question when I start the podcast. You can answer it as long or as short as you like. There's no right answer, of course. To you, what is life?
Life is love, man. Life is love. It is light. It is. Yeah. I mean, you can use the term God, although that has a lot of bias on it. I'm not like personally dogmatic in any specific direction, but like life is love. To me, like the highest lesson you can learn is love. And that comes in a lot of many different forms. It comes in two forms, from my understanding. It comes from service to others, that path, and it comes to service for self, which is the opposite path. And I think a lot of the problems that we see in society, and a lot that I know that you highlight on your social media, I think those come from people following what they believe love to be, but it's oriented around service to self, kind of a selfish, like it's about me and my power, and like kind of enslaving other people so that they can give me more power. And I believe that's a version of love, but it's sort of misguided. And I believe the real truth is about service to others. And I think that's kind of what we're doing with our individual social media platforms as creators, and also on this podcast. I think we're here to offer insight and wisdom, to be of service to others. So that's what I have to say about life, man.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. Today I was thinking about how, what do we really, what's the most enjoyable thing about life? And I think it's just being with other people, like enjoying each other's presence. Isn't that really what is what we remember the most about life?
I completely agree, man. With the healing work that I do, helping people overcome a lot of their trauma that's blocking them, like a big part of that is returning to like our inner child, right? Like that part of yourself where you just like, you're not overthinking, you're not worrying about the future or the past, but you're just in the moment and you're just like enjoying it and you're being fun, creative. It's great. Like we've all had those moments and they're the best. And for me, dude, nothing better than just like pairing up with some of your best friends and just having epic conversations like this, like whatever that is for you. But like for me, I'm a social guy. I love to just do that. So yeah, I do. I completely agree, man.
Yeah, it is like, it's the best. I don't know. Like, and also I want to talk about the inner child thing. So how do we get back to that? Like, when you're sitting on that couch watching SpongeBob, there is not a care in the world. It's a Friday. You got snacks. You got SpongeBob. There's not much to worry about at all. Obviously, when you get older, you start worrying. You got shit to worry about. Responsibilities are worrisome, but I feel like you can really let it control you, or you can control it. So, what do you think about how do we get back to the inner child of ourselves?
Well, dude, that's a great question. I think it's a really important question too. And I love the example of like just the SpongeBob, because I think a lot of it, especially people our age, can relate to that.
Oh yeah,
and it's true. And yeah, to answer that question best, I'll share a little bit about my story, because, dude, just to be very vulnerable and very upfront at the beginning, because that's just the kind of guy I am. I never feel like I need to hide anything. One of my biggest challenges in life was when I was 10 years old. My older brother of 13, his name was Ian. He was my older brother. And we're on vacation. And he grabbed an exposed extension cord, and I saw him get electrocuted to death in front of me.
wow,
Right. Incredibly traumatizing, right? Like a terrible experience. I was 10 years old. right? So young child. And so for me, that I had to grow up really fast, and not in a healthy, mature way, but in like a place of a lot of pain. And my parents really struggled too. So they couldn't really help me a whole lot as much as maybe they would like to. And so I share that because, dude, I was like, by the time I was like 13, I was like an old grouchy man who was like, so like anything that is not science and rational is stupid and
Yeah.
is bullshit. And anybody's religious or spiritual, they're fucking idiots. They don't get science. It's just a coincidence. What are you talking about? And like, I was so pessimistic, and I just
Right.
thought like life is shit, and I'm a piece of shit, and that's just how it is. It's never going to change. So that's where I literally used to be. I feel important to share that because I was as disconnected from my inner child as you could be. And then how do we get there? Right. Well, dude, I personally spent over $40,000 in self-help programs because I dropped out of college actually to pursue this because I needed to fix myself. I was so fucked up. And I tried everything, like literally everything you could imagine in the self-help sphere. I've dabbled in, tried it all, right? Because I was so obsessed. And so I spent years of my life and all that money. And I found one major modality that actually works. And not that many people talk about it. So I'm glad that you asked, man, because, and I don't need to get too deep into it, but really it's just a matter of release work is what it's called. Maybe you've heard of it.
Okay.
Trauma release, shadow work goes by those names, goes by their names, but it's about like facing your trauma in processing through it, and actually like looking at the fucked up part of yourself and actually looking at it. But most people who are in the healing spiritual sphere, they're all about like, oh, light and love, and like just think positive thoughts, right? Oh, don't think like that. It's like, no. That's actually damaging because you're teaching people to reject what we call your dark side, right? We all have a dark side. It's that part of ourselves that's been had fucked up situations, that thinks fucked up thoughts, like that thinks murderous, horrible thoughts. We all share it. None of us want to admit it, but we all have those thoughts. Like, let's be real, we're human. And especially in a society like this, it's not so easy to get by without experiencing some of your own trauma. And so my process very simply is about actually sitting with that and embracing it rather than resisting it or rejecting it, which is what we normally do and we've been taught to do. And even therapy teaches us to do, right? Because we're like, oh, think positively. It's like, well, no. Stop resisting the negativity. And then when you stop resisting it and it comes up and it comes in these big releases, emotional releases, usually you process through it. And then you can actually heal at the deepest level. And most people don't even know this exists because they've never been there. Right. But that's when like real transformation happens. And that's how I went from where I was to where I am now. And I imagine like for you, getting to meet me, and for the, whether video or audio listeners, you can probably hear it in my voice and see it on my face. Like, I'm not in that space I used to be. I'm not super depressed all the time. I have my moments. Once again, I'm human. Let's not forget.
Right.
But yeah, man, we got to stop rejecting our dark side and learn to love it. Learn to stop fighting ourselves. Anyways, that's my little answer to
I
that.
like that. And so this is a hard lesson for me. I know this is a truth, and it's still hard for me to apply to myself every day. You're not going to get anywhere like avoiding friction. Avoiding hard things will not get you anywhere. And I do it all the time. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Sounds tough. But I know that's how you get better. And so when people are like avoiding, the work to heal yourself, you're not really helping yourself at all. You're only going deeper there. And it's hard to like, do you do that still? Like, I mean, it's a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah, of course. Like, it's again, I can't stress enough that I'm a human being, right?
Right.
And we're all on our journey here. But yeah, like what I want to kind of reframe that as is like, it's about the path of least resistance. Right. Because if you bring it back to nature, right, like that's what a river does. It follows down gravity and goes down the path of least resistance. Yet it like cuts through mountains. Right. So like with erosion over time. Now, the thing about like, there's that part of us that wants to procrastinate, right, and not do these things that are hard. We know they're hard. We know they're good for us, but we're like, I don't want to do it. Like, fuck. And I get that. And I get that way too. But what I find is the more we put it off and procrastinate, the more painful it gets. And the more painful it gets, the more it becomes the path of least resistance to just do it, because not doing it becomes more painful. And then you will automatically do it.
That's so true. Yeah. It's like the more
Right?
comfortable you get, the more painful it is to change, actually. It makes sense though, right? Like when you think of it like that, like the more comfortable it is, the harder it is to get out of. That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And like the more painful it is to stay where you're at, really, to not change.
Yes. Dude, I always say this. I get uncomfortable in comfort. Comfort
Yeah,
gets so comfortable that it becomes uncomfortable.
it's
Yeah.
true, man. And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to learn there.
What do you think? So, man, it blows my mind that like consciousness. I'm just my whole life is revolved around. I'm never going to get an answer, but figuring out consciousness. So I know it's emotions, but like I can't understand. Do we? I wrote down a question because it was blowing my mind. Do we choose our thoughts?
That's a good question. I think most of the time, no. I think most of the time they're kind of automatic.
Where do they come from?
Where do they come from? Well, I think there are three major facets to our beings, and I think it's mind, body, and spirit. So
Okay.
I think a lot of thoughts come from the body and the mind, right? Like for example, it's like if your stomach is hungry, you're gonna get a thought like, "Ooh, I want to eat something,"
True.
right? So there's a thought, and I would argue that's from your body. Is that fair enough?
That's fair.
Well, then and then there's the mind, right? It's like I'm thinking about things. Let's say I'm like trying to solve a math problem, right? That's not really happening in my body so much as happening in my mind. And I'm having all kinds of thoughts there. Or even like automatic thoughts that I'm not like choosing to actively solve a math problem, but like socially, for example, like I'm out in public and for people with social anxiety, they're constantly having thoughts about like, oh, is this person judging me? Is this happening? Like what's going on? How do I look? And those to me are more about the mind, and those are pretty automatic. And then there's the spirit. And I think the spirit is the smallest percentage of thoughts. But to me, it almost seems like those are the ones we have the most like say with, the most power. But where do they come from? I that would be my best answer. I mean, I can't know that
Good
for sure,
answer.
but it makes
Yeah.
sense to me. I don't
No,
know
it
what you
does
think.
make sense when you put it like that.
What do you think, man?
I don't know. I'm trying to, like we can't really explain consciousness, right? Like it's the I it's hard to put a hand on. Like that does make sense though with the body, right? Like, and then that affects, say, if you're hungry, people also get angry. So like that affects your thoughts as well. And then, but what's funny about the soul thoughts? The soul thoughts seem so pure and authentic, right? Like those always feel like the most passion behind them.
And
And those
wise
are
too.
often the best. Yeah, I love those thoughts a lot.
You've been
I
having
have a
any of those
question for you.
recently? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, what'd you say?
I said you been having any soul thoughts recently?
I'd like to think so. I like
Yeah.
to think so. I
Nice,
have a
man.
question for you. So neurotypical. Do you know about neurodiversity?
I understand it. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know what I am. I guess I'm neurotypical. I don't know. I don't experience anxiety at a high level. So, what is anxiety? Like what is anxiety? Like just basic foundation. What is anxiety?
That's a great question. I think the easiest answer I can give, and I haven't really thought about answering that before. It's a great question. Um, I think it's just it's a fear. It's a fear that things are not as they should be. And that serves a lot of purposes. I think on a survival level, it's like you're gonna have anxiety if your food situation or your shelter situation isn't as it should be and you're at risk for death,
Right.
then you're gonna feel anxiety. And then that goes on to the other layers beyond survival. There's like our social survival, right? So it's like social anxiety, right? It's like wanting to
Right.
fit in and be accepted and be loved. And we'll have anxiety if we feel like it's not as it should be. But emotions are often irrational,
They
right?
are.
So it's not you know what I mean? Like oftentimes we'll feel anxious and there's no real good reason. Um, or maybe there is a reason, we're just not aware of it. So I
Right.
think that's probably my best answer, but there's probably better answers out there for that. It's a great question though.
Yeah, thank you. It it's an interesting thought because like being nervous isn't anxiety, right? Or it's a form of anxiety.
Yeah, so it's so funny. Like when it comes down to defining terms, a lot of it is semantics, and a lot of it is like people. Everybody has their own definition. Like even
Right.
consciousness, right? Everybody like has a different understanding of what that means to them. So I can share what it means to me, but it's going to be different for everybody. I mean, I think like for example, like one thing I'm doing at the end of this month is I'm going to sing in a cabaret, and I've never done that before, but I got invited to do so. I've always loved singing. I've never done it on stage, and like I feel nervousness of it because it's just new and it's like, you know, it's an intense experience, but I don't necessarily feel super anxious about it, you know, but that's
Right.
just what works for me, right? That's what sounds right to me. But nervousness, I mean, it's all interrelated, you know.
It is. Yeah. Dude, I've been realizing how much like words really can't define things in life. Gets me tripped up sometimes because I'm like, you're seeing it so differently, but we just, the only thing we know is like words. So that's what we're tying it to. Same thing with colors, right? Like blue isn't necessarily blue. We just all agree to call it that, you know? Like it's like we all know what pain feels, right? Like, right. But like you've only felt pain the way you feel it, and I've only felt it the way I felt it. It's
Right.
very language is very limiting. And
It's true. And even to extrapolate, like there's different kinds of pain, right? Like
yeah.
when you go to the doctor,
Oh,
they say
so
is that
many.
throbbing, a shooting, a sharp, like, you know, so it's
Dude,
very
it's funny you
complex.
say that. I can't describe pain. That's like one of my things in life. People are like, "Oh, how's it hurt? Like, is it sharp?" And I'm like, "I don't know what the fuck that means. I don't know what that means. It hurts." Like
All I
I
know is it
can't
hurts.
define it. Yeah, like I can't define it. That's always been a thing with me. But yeah, it's
Gotcha.
just it's tough, man. I'm trying to get my like wrap my thumb around like anxiety. It's the thinking about the thoughts almost, and it's like it is instinctual. It's funny. The brain, I've heard this before. I don't know who said it, but your mind or your body basically doesn't give a fuck about your mental health because we have evolved over time to keep our bodies alive. You get what I mean by that? Like,
I do. Go on.
you know, if we overthink or whatever, it's unhealthy to overthink in a way, but it's what kept us alive throughout our whole entire existence. It's, we've say a lion attacked us from a bush. Guess what? We're going to be thinking about that bush and staying away from it. like it's mentally evolved us, but it's also it's hurting us in a way sometimes or most of the time.
Mhm.
It's a weird situation there.
Yeah, and to add to that, if I may, I wouldn't say that our body doesn't give a fuck about our mind. In fact, I think they're really interrelated. They are one, and so they do really care, but the survival is always going to be um prioritized.
True.
And sometimes like I think like partly because of trauma, we've had our like we've got all these associations in our brain that are kind of miswired. Like we're misfiring,
Yes.
right? Where we're experiencing all this anxiety for something that's not even like real. And so there's like a disconnection. And I believe that's what trauma is. But when we heal that, then our fear responses like return to a healthy place where
It's
it's
amazing that
actually
you
useful.
can. Oh God, it's actually
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It is. It's amazing that like the brain does that to itself, and then you could just heal it, and then it won't do that anymore. It's hard for me to separate the brain from your consciousness in
How
a
so?
way, because like I know naturally the brain creates consciousness, right? We know that, I think, but it's hard to like see what directs it. Like I don't know what basically. I mean, it's a combination of things like we've said, right? Like body, mind, spirit, but like I don't know who's like what's in control most of the time.
Yeah, great question. And that, that kind of goes into the topic of free will slash determinism.
Yeah,
Right.
I've been thinking about that a lot.
I definitely have my answers and my beliefs around that, but I'm curious to hear where you're at.
Okay, so originally my thought was that, well, I don't. It's hard to. say I don't believe in anything, honestly. That's the one thing I do believe in, is that no one knows what's going on and no one knows what this is, and there's no way to prove it.
For
So
sure.
there actually, it doesn't matter if there is free will or fate, because it's going to happen regardless. But it's funny because, like, say right now, is it, say I feel like I'm free right now, right? Like what I'm saying and everything, it feels like it's free, but once it's happened, it feels like fate. And I feel that way with the butterfly effect,
Mm.
where, some crazy, everything has to happen the way it happened for us, me and you, just to be here right now. I'm going to trip out the listeners. If you're listening right now, everything had to happen just for you to press play on this podcast. And now you're listening to this, doing whatever you're doing right now. Everything that's ever happened in the existence of ever had to happen the way it did for this moment to happen right now. That sounds like fate, doesn't it?
That sounds pretty cool to me, I think.
Doesn't that sound like fate? Or is it a combination of free will turning into cement history, I guess?
Interesting.
Like nothing guided it, but what happened happened and you can't change what happened. So in a way, it sounds like fate. But maybe it is all pre-planned, and whatever we're doing cannot be misdirected because the person who wrote it knows what's going to happen. It's totally possible. Either way is totally possible.
Right. And what I'm hearing you say too is that when you are witnessing the idea of fate, when you're looking at the past
Right.
from that kind of lens through time.
Totally. Because like the smallest thing, the smallest difference, like I met my girlfriend because my brother swiped right on his girlfriend in the past. You know what I mean? On Tinder, on an app. And if someone didn't create the app, then I would have never like met my girlfriend. And you know what I mean? Like just such a crazy coincidences of situations. And it feels so, I guess, like it was fate, but it's not really, because in the moment it's free will.
Right.
It's just a crazy coincidences of happenings.
Which, that brings up the concept of like, are there really coincidences or
Right.
is it synchronicity?
Right.
Right.
I'm just so, dude, like no one knows what's going on here. No one
True.
knows what life is, honestly. And maybe that's the point of it, is that it's just whatever you want it to be. And like, or maybe there is something that we're missing all along, you know?
It's a great question. And I agree with you in the sense that I don't think we'll ever figure it all out. But I do think we'll figure out bits and pieces.
Yeah.
I do think as we grow and evolve, and I'm a big believer that we like in multiple lives. Go ahead.
Do you mean in this life or humanity in total? Like we will find out in this life, everyone
Both.
finds it out in their life, or in humanity in total?
Well, we'll find out bits and pieces in every moment. Like I would even say like, compare, like if you think about the average person in society, they're not having conversations like these. They're
No.
not, right? So they haven't discovered some of the ideas that we have.
Right.
Now, does that mean we're the gurus? We got to figure it all out? No, not
No.
at all, right? We are so totally humbly on our own path. But we do have some insights that we didn't know before, and we're going to continue to learn more. And I think we're going to, it's not about figuring it out and arriving. It's about on the path of wisdom and like learning of the highest order, like as best as you can. Um, yeah,
That was said really
yeah,
well.
yeah. And
Yeah,
there's
it
something
is.
else we kind
It's
of
a
want to go,
journey.
if you don't mind, like I want to
Yeah,
go
go
into
for it.
what you were saying earlier, because I think it's a really good topic of like free will versus determinism or fate. I'm a big believer that we do have free will. I'm a big believer that that is a fundamental law of the universe. And I think,
Mm,
I kind of mentioned earlier about the two forms of love. Remember that?
yes.
Right? Service to self, service to others. I think free will is a concept of service to others, while I think fate is a concept of the service to self. And to explain that, the service to self path, this is where you find a lot, for example, like the greedy CEOs who are incredibly corrupt and don't give a fuck about other people. They just want more power, right? That what they want to do is they want to enslave people's energy, their consciousness, and their bodies and their minds to work for them, to give them more power. And if they can convince people that life is just fate, then they're going to fall into a victim consciousness, and they're going to be powerless. They're going to be hopeless. and they'll just fucking suck up their power. Right. So kind of crazy, right?
Right.
So I believe that that is like a negatively oriented belief of fate. And I've talked to people like, even in my business, like, I have sales calls with prospects who want to overcome social anxiety. And I've talked to one guy and he's just like, yeah, like there's nothing I can do. It's just like, it's just fate. And I'm like, bro,
Wow.
you're just like, you're not doing anything. Like we're talking right now. You could choose to sign up like my academy, right? To do something about it or something else, right? But he's just like, oh, there's nothing I can do. I'm like, fuck, that's not true, man. Like you chose to get on this call. So that's the start. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm very passionate about that because I think it's a really fundamental to the freedom of an individual. Freedom for yourself, freedom for me is to realize we do have free will and we can create the life that we want. Although I also believe there are certain like fundamental laws to this universe. Like it is a sandbox, but there's also like a perimeter. There are certain like limits.
Right. The edge of the box. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I love that. That makes so much sense too. Because, say if you buy into fate, you'll never change, I feel like, and also like you said, people's like, a lot of people, not people, but emperors, kings like that, they were driven by fate. They would say, oh, it's my Alexander the Great. It felt like it was his destiny to conquer everything.
Manifest destiny. It's just crazy. It's kind of fucked up.
Right.
Really.
Like he believed, yeah. I mean, the white man's burden. You ever heard of that? Like they
Yeah.
really believed that it was their duty to own these lands because they can own the land better than other people, other races and stuff. They believed that that was their purpose or destiny.
Yeah. And
And
think about
I
how
mean,
much how much fucked up shit happened because of that.
in the name of fate or destiny. And
Like how
yeah.
much murder, rape, like just destruction of culture, killing, like it's horrible.
And what do they say? I can't change. Like that guy said, he said, I can't do anything. People would be like, I can't change. That's just who I am. I do believe that you can change that. That's why I do love free will. I do think I think free will is the secret, honestly. It's the idea that we're not bound to anything. It's the idea that I know it's in the name, but free, which is so true. We can really make this whatever we want. Life, I love the idea that life's a sandbox because we can make it whatever we want this to be. There are rules that we've made that we decide to live by. But one day, I mean, we can quite literally just all get together and be like, hey, do we agree with this? No? Okay. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. Like this is a creative place. And we have to realize that we are creators in a way. And I just feel like I don't know if it's intentionally that we, put a lid on that. School definitely doesn't teach us to be free thinkers. I know Rockefeller had the quote where he says, I don't want a nation of free thinkers. I just want a nation of workers, something along that line. And I often wonder, and I did this on my last episode podcast, but do you think that the elite, corporate like greed people are doing it like being corrupt and evil? Well, I guess corrupt on purpose, but do you think they're being evil on purpose?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
I don't think they would see it as evil though.
Right.
I think it's evil from our
Yes.
perspective because we are positively oriented. And I think they're negatively oriented, service to self. So that's what
Yes.
they're doing. Is like that's what they think life and love is about just like me and my own.
So true.
So that
Well,
they think
okay.
they're doing the right thing, is what I would.
Yes, that's what. Yes. That's what I feel like people need to understand. Like they're not like, oh yes, they're not, fucking twiddling their thumbs in their evil lab. Like they think they've been taught that, business. I've actually thought about the saying. The saying's funny when people say, I'm sorry, it's just business. Like it like trumps emotions, people's lives. Like, oh, you have a family to feed. I'm sorry, we got to let you go. It's just business. And then you're like, it's just business. Yeah, it makes sense. They can't do it. Like it does. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely like the humanity is sacrificed in that. Which
Yes.
is a very unfortunate
And
thing.
for the sake of, I know it's real. I know money and everything like is it's very real, right? But like sometimes not sometimes, a lot of the times it becomes more important than people like actual people's lives, which I don't know. It's something we made up completely.
It's true.
But like
Well,
you said,
yeah,
with I love how you keep saying the service to self and the service to the, I guess, community or others.
others.
You know, it's not a coincidence that the more money you make, the more isolated you become. You don't eat with normal people now. You get the penthouse. You don't, you're in the owner's box at a sports game. You're not with the crowd. You're
Yeah,
not, your mansion has 200 acres. You're nowhere
yeah.
near another person in society.
Join the Bored Ape Yacht Club, right?
Yes. The more money you get, the further you are away from humanity and the less human you become. People start to become numbers. And they're serving themselves. And then I think at some point they find out that, hey, like this wasn't worth it. Like this wasn't the way to go because they have no one else anymore. And, they don't even know if they're friends or their friends because, themselves or their money or their social status or their position. Everything gets to question when you serve yourself.
Yes. And that's such a great point, because that plight is something that all those really uber successful people seem to eventually do. And they're like, they have this awakening, like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? No, I have no connections. Nobody loves me. I hate myself. And then they go to like do an ayahuasca ceremony and think they're enlightened. But but yeah, dude, it's very real what you're saying. And I think, like, I really believe at the end of the day, like, the positive orientation always wins out. And there's a real reason for that. It's not just, blind optimism. Like, I think on a physical level, because I'm big into quantum physics, metaphysics, and physics in general. I think it's really fascinating. But do you know about entropy? Do you know what that means?
I haven't delved into that yet.
So entropy is basically the randomness of a system, like the amount of variability. So the less entropy, the more like the more you can kind of guess what's going to happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like the less random things, the more predictable it is.
Yes. But the more entropy, the more chaos, the more uncertainty, basically.
Right.
So I believe like the path of service to self is a chaotic one, right? Because just like you said, when you're like, it's just business, and you're making those decisions, like you're firing a struggling family because you're just trying to keep up your profit numbers and, get your couple shareholders happy. Think about how much chaos you're adding to that family unit who you just fired. An unbelievable amount, right? And even that gets reflected, I think, internally on a spiritual level. So when you have so much chaos in a system, bro, what happens? Like revolutions.
Yeah.
Like it explodes because it's too much chaos. And so I think eventually, like, the only system that will work long term and into the higher levels of society and consciousness is service to others, because that's about harmony and peace, rather than hierarchy and gaining power and enslaving. It's more about harmony and peace and collaboration. And that is a very stable system.
Dude, I just got chills. I'm really glad you said that.
Nice.
I don't think this system will last much longer. I don't. Just read the room. It's depression going up, all-time high. Anxiety, all-time high. Addiction to everything, all-time high. Like, clearly, I think we're going to pop soon. And I feel like the social system that does last the longest is the one where we serve each other, where we are truly doing things for just each other and not for some monetary gain or self gain. Because really, in the end of the day, like I said, what's better than being with someone else and just enjoying each other? There really is nothing better. And I think that's the future. I think that's whatever that is. I don't know. I don't think money is involved, honestly. People are like, oh, people wouldn't do anything without money. I disagree.
That's bullshit, man.
I disagree.
That is such a toxic belief that we have been programmed to believe by the fucking like Rothschilds and everything. Like, it's not true.
We're going to be held in that prison for another probably 10 years at least. Like, people are going to.
I think it's going to be longer.
Yeah.
But I completely agree with everything you're saying. I think the time horizon's really hard to say. It might, to be honest, it might even be past our lifetimes but we're going to be the precursors for, I don't know, dude. I can't read the future.
Bro,
But I
that's so
completely
true.
agree, man. And you know what? It's been exacerbated by like our generation. Dude, we're both 22, right? We grew up with a fucking iPhone in our hands, access to the internet, Google, right? And now we've got TikTok. I mean, it's almost impossible to not really see what's going on, like the corruption of the society. It's impossible to miss it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's people who just really are willfully asleep and, you know, whatever. But generally, it's like every time I'm scrolling on TikTok, I'll all of a sudden just see this new thing about like these people like exposing this stuff and providing real evidence of some really fucked up shit that's happening at the elite level. And like, you know what I mean? Like our previous ancestors, our parents, they didn't have that, right? So they were deeply programmed before that was even a thing. So it's like that's why I think we are the ones who, like our generation, Gen Z, and even the generation below us, they're called, I think, the Alpha generation, which is a really cool name, I think.
So fucking sick.
Born in 2012 and
That's
beyond.
so sick.
Like I really believe, dude, I'm a big believer on a spiritual level. Like we were sent here to fucking change this planet for the better, for the positive orientation. I believe that fully.
Oh, I got
Um,
chills.
right? Yeah. See, and dude, that's what I'm saying. Like the fact that you just felt chills, to me, I verify spiritual truth through the chills. That's how I know it for myself. So I think it's cool that you're experiencing that because I think it's
Right?
resonating something really deep inside of you, man. Because I
Yo.
think it's true. I believe it's true. Um, and it's like that is the path of service to others, man. It's a beautiful thing. But yeah, dude, I'd love to talk about, because this is kind of what I led into this, you know, doing this interview or podcast really, was talking about the social revolution I believe is going to happen after Web3.
Okay.
And
Yes,
I don't know how much you're,
please.
yeah.
I don't know anything. So please, I've been dying to hear this. Go.
Great, man. But okay, so I want to like, are your viewers probably familiar with what Web3 is?
Maybe.
Okay, I can
I don't
recap.
know.
So basically, like for everybody who may not know what it is, Web3 is essentially like the whole like cryptocurrency, NFT market, the metaverse, decentralized internet, decentralized things. Like that is Web3. Web2 is basically that was like the introduction of like social network platforms like YouTube and Instagram. That changed the internet forever. And then we're going into Web3 right now. This is where we're at currently, is we're starting to add these decentralized systems, which you know, it's complicated, but to make it simple is like it's no longer regulated by a single controlling like government or entity. Instead, a decentralized internet, for example, is owned by the people and nobody has full control over it. And it's very secure and it cannot be like corrupted. So that's what's cool about Web3 is it really is bringing power back into the people, and it's making it more of that like person to person like economy and like relationship. And I think that's huge. And so, and to be honest, this social revolution thing is my theory. I was just contemplating one day and it just came to me and I started running with it. And so it's a new thing. I haven't heard anybody talk about it. So this might be my idea. You know, obviously it's who cares about taking ownership, but to explain it, I think Web3 is going to be the platform for which a social revolution happens. Now, what do I mean by social revolution? I mean, I think it's going to be like the earth is shifting towards a positive service to others orientation. Like we've been very negative in the past, and I think we're rapidly shifting the other way. We're polarizing. And I think the internet has been a huge precursor to that. Just like I said, our generation, we're more woke than ever, just using that term. But next, we're going to have Web3, where the governments aren't going to be able to control the flow of information like they could on Web2, right? Like the censorship and cancel culture and all that shit. Like they won't be able to do that on Web3. And like we're going to have like virtual reality and augmented reality, meaning that like right now we're talking on Zoom. And that's great, right? Because it kind of feels like we're together, but there's also a certain level of separation. And the crazy thing about it is like, if I want to make eye contact with you, then I have to look at the camera, and I'm not really making eye contact because right now it looks like I'm looking right at you, but I'm looking at the camera. I can't even see your face right now.
Right. And I'm looking right at your eyes, but I'm not looking at my camera. So
Right. So there's a bit of a disconnection. Now imagine for a second that you could just put on a pair of glasses, augmented reality, and I could just see a hologram of you sitting on the couch in my room, and we could do a podcast that way. How fucking cool is that?
Pretty sick.
Right. I think that adds a whole nother layer of connection and like
For
potential.
sure.
Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree so much, because you would realize that the internet is full of real people. Like,
Right.
I have a substantial amount of followers. Doesn't feel like it, but it could, like, if I saw everyone that followed me technically in a stadium, I'd like, it's actually insane. Like, we don't realize that everyone on the internet is actually a person. I mean, there are bots obviously, but like, there are real people on the internet with these comments and everything. Everything you see, not every like, but most comments and everything is real people. And we forget that because we're looking at a screen. But if we can, seeing is almost believing, the saying.
Yeah.
If we
Crazy.
see them, whether it's real life or virtual reality, it'll feel much more real.
Real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And think about how
important.
much more compassionate and love and connection you could share with your audience that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause
Right.
you already do feel like a connection through web too, but I couldn't, yeah. Dude, I think you're really onto something here. I
Thank
don't know
you.
why. I want to share this. I want to share this because I feel like you believe in it too. I feel like we're almost on like a fucking story, and it doesn't matter if it's real or not, but it feels like Earth is a story about, the idea is that originally, before, for 95% of human history, we lived in foraging societies, which means hunter gatherers, which means some, like most or some of the community hunted, and then the other half of the community basically gathered, berries, fruits, all these things, nuts. So that was the way we lived, and it didn't. There was no ownership really. Granted, there's so much to explain in this.
Yeah.
So hard to speak, dude, on like big topics because there's
I
so
think you do a
much
great
to it.
job, man. I think you do a
Thanks.
great
I'm
job.
trying to explain it as well as I can, but yes, there were examples and groups, because we're human, different groups throughout the continents that did have hierarchies and things like that. But a lot of these tribes were conformed of people about 150 or less, and there was no hierarchies essentially, not in the way that they are today, where
Yes.
we are basically like almost like slaves to these people, where we get born on this earth for free. Well, first of all, you get born for free, but you have to pay to be birthed
Pay to
at a
live. Yeah.
hospital.
Pay
Yeah,
to
we
play.
pay to live, quite literally. And it wasn't always like that. And when we didn't have, like, when people didn't own property, I think owning property is what started hierarchies, because, oh, I own this land, you want what I produce, which is anything, food, anything like that, water. Now you owe me something. So that's how it kind of starts the hierarchy. And I totally lost my train of thought.
I mean, that's the
But
banking system in a whole.
yeah, right. Like,
Yeah.
they just created something now we owe. Like, okay, so I'm living in
You
a
owe me.
building and I pay my landlord, but who does my landlord pay? Right.
Well, property taxes, the government.
Right. And then also, this is going so crazy. I was gonna say, who owns land? That always trips me up. Like,
Well, it's funny in China. I don't know if you know this, but in China, you can never own property. You can buy it
really?
and like do real estate, but you're only lending it from the government. You can't actually own it in China.
So then the government owns it, but then, like,
Government owns
who is the
all
government?
real estate.
That always
Yeah.
gets me too. Like, who the fuck? Who is really the government? So who owns this? It's weird. Anyway, I'm talking about the story. Oh my god,
Yes.
let's circle back. So the story is, we started off for 95% of the time in these pretty pure, like, people think the history of man is brutal and harsh. That's actually dogma. Or is that the right word to say? I think it's dogma. I don't know. That's actually false beliefs. Like, it wasn't as harsh as you think it was. The lifespan is actually around 70 years, but the fertility rate was low, and that's why everybody thinks you lived 30 years. Most people lived around 60 years. But I honestly think it was more loving, more towards groups, others lived in that way. And then I don't know what happened. The idea of hierarchies is really a lot of people credit it to the creation of agriculture that created all of our issues, basically, which created civilization. And I feel like ever since we started living in civilizations, hierarchies, things like that, that's kind of just like tainted us in a way, I feel like,
Yes.
into the self, like we've been saying. And we've just been, so I honestly drew like a timeline once where it's like, not, I guess it was flat and then down. And I feel like at some point we're going to hit this bottom and just skyrocket up. And I think maybe Web3 is the start of that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think we're already curving up because it's definitely a curve.
I
Like a
think
wave.
just having these ideas is starting it.
I
Because
agree.
it's hard to put a timeline on it, like you've been saying.
Yeah.
It could be, next 10 years. It could be 100 years from now, but you're definitely starting. They fucked up giving us the internet. They fucked up because it's actually opened our eyes like never before. And I think it's going to change
they did
the
a great
world.
thing, right? They did a really good thing.
That's where
right?
they slipped, I think, because it's funny. People don't realize that these Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all these things, they're owned. Like people can delete and block and do whatever they want to you. It's not actually free speech. I mean, technically it is, but it's not. They can block, they can ban you or anything. But like, what if, is that the idea of Web3? Is that like no one owns it?
Yes, exactly.
That's what we need.
I know, you're right. Right. That's why Web3 is really important.
Because if there was a revolution, they would obviously not televise it. It would not be on social media. Like they would just block all of that shit.
Yeah, you're not going to see it on televised to your vision. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's why, man, I like that a lot. Because it's going to start with, I think it's going to start with the internet because it just opens up to things that we can't know, we can't see, or we didn't even know we didn't know.
Yeah. For example, like one really real grounded example I like to give is like how that can potentially like offer us just a new ability to connect and know things we couldn't know before, is like use that same AR technology about like the holograms in the room. Now imagine I can just like zap myself into Nigeria and just like hang out with a bunch of Nigerian people that I would never get to meet for the most part otherwise, and just like have a conversation with them like, hey, what's up? How are you? What's going on? Right? Or in the Philippines. I've never been in the Philippines, right? And I'd just be like, hey, what's up, guys? Like, tell me about you. What's going on in your country? Or
Right.
Ukraine, right? Very relevant example. Imagine right now you could just digitally, with no downsides, no consequences, zap yourself over to Ukraine virtually and talk to the people who are in the war-torn areas and hear their stories. Like, how much would that help you become more conscious, more compassionate, more caring, and more connected to each other? And how much easier could we all like organize for the power of good and power of like of love, basically, right? And like, for example, like I love the example you said about like, imagine seeing like in an auditorium of all of your followers, which you've got like 150K, right?
Yeah, around there.
Right. And then or about, right? I've got 50K. So that's about 200K. And a huge round up to like, that's like a 250,000, right? So almost a 250,000 of people. Imagine how many that is, right? There are not auditoriums big enough to house all of those people, right? Which is nuts to think about. And imagine if you were able to just like host a digital seminar where people could just zip over there for free, right? Where normally you'd have to like pay literally tens of thousands of dollars just to run a single in-person seminar. It actually is that expensive because, I work with people who do that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, but imagine the power and the empowerment you could have by being able to do that. And I think I agree 100% with what you're saying, dude. I think you're totally hitting it on the head. Like, we are going to return to that kind of like non-hierarchical, just like we're all part of the same human family. And I heard on one of your videos recently talking about that. And it's coming, dude. It's coming.
I feel it. I feel it right now. I'm getting the chills again.
It's a matter of time, and we're doing our part. And I think it's easy to get discouraged at times when we're looking at certain parts of society as it currently is. But I think, like, dude, I think what you're doing as a creator and the ideas you're sharing and to the amount of people you're impacting is like really important, dude. So I think you're doing fantastic. Like, you're serving at a very high level, and I'm not sure that you're even aware of it. So I want to give you kudos, dude, because
I appreciate
doing really
that
good.
A lot, dude.
You're doing really good for the world, man. Because I remember, when I discovered your videos, like, just like feeling like, God damn it, thank you. Like really, like, thank you for saying the things that you're saying, because some of it was new ideas to me. And I'm like, God, you're so fucking right. And also, I just knew like some of the ideas I kind of understood, but I realized like, damn, like I know that most people who are even on this path of like discovery, they don't know this stuff yet, and I know how helpful it would be for them. So I just want to like thank you for your service, man.
Dude, I really
And I
appreciate
know
that.
absolutely, man. I know some people are like, oh well, it's like, I'm just fucking doing this. It's like, no, man, like it really does count. It does. So yeah.
Fucking hard, man. I'm not trying to be like, oh, it's so hard to be me. But dude, consciousness is like I don't know, I just fucking believe in consciousness so much. Like you said, if we consciousness is to me is like awareness, just awareness of whatever you want to call this experience. And seeing it, and like if you could talk to, I swear we can't even comprehend it really. If we can talk to just right now, even everybody that's living in this world, like not everybody, obviously there's fucking billions of us. If I could talk to, one person from China and also in their language, and I would need like that's a very important. Language is
That's cool.
so
That would be
crucial
cool.
because they just languages change the way you actually see the like or think of the world. I believe that 100%.
Yes.
Um, but like just gaining that knowledge of that there are those type of people. Like I love meeting new people. This is awesome meeting you because I am aware of thoughts that only you have be like really understood. I feel like everybody is capable of understanding their own thoughts, but when you share them, it can open up new doors. Like when you're talking about this web point or 3.0 thing, I've never even thought of this. And now you've opened up a door to this whole new thing that I can spend hours thinking about. So thank you actually for, doing that. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
your consciousness. It
Yeah.
really is like, I swear to God, consciousness is like one being. I
Yeah.
think that's really what like
It's all
humanity
one.
is and consciousness is like we basically are just adding our little pieces to the puzzle. And then once the puzzle is complete, we can really see what life is in total, you know?
Yeah.
It's a crazy experience.
Yeah, man. I'm also a big believer. Like it's all one, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I know people are like, oh yeah, well, blah, blah, blah. It's more so like in the most literal sense, I believe we're all one. Like if you use the word God, the universe, like everything is one. It all comes from the same place. It all ends in the same place. We all are on the same path. We are all the same consciousness experiencing itself in an infinite number of different ways. And I believe part of, we're going more esoteric here, but I believe part of the structure of this particular reality here on Earth includes like a forgetting process. Like, and I
Mm.
like to call it the veil of forgetting. Like basically when we're incarnated into this life, we 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 go through agreements that we agree that we're meant to forget who we really are, like on a spiritual level.
Okay, so
Right?
let me ask you.
Yeah.
So do you believe in reincarnation?
Yes.
Yes. Can
Yes.
you elaborate?
Yeah. Well, so I believe like you as a soul, you are more than just Mark as a human. Like the real you, the greater you is
So
more than that.
interesting.
And you've lived basically an infinite number of lives on this planet, other planets, whatever. I don't know your exact journey, but like the real you is beyond your physical human body because you are a mind, body, and a spirit. You're not just the mind and the body, you're also a spirit. Now, our bodies and minds, they die, right? But your
Yeah.
spirit doesn't. And so, yeah, I think like break it down to Newton's one of the Newton's laws is like matter is cannot be created or destroyed, only transferred. So yeah, I mean, that's a simple proof right there for the idea of reincarnation. But I think it's like people have a very kind of random belief system around like the nature of reality. They think it's kind of just all like fucking, it's all just here and it's just this random shitty existence. And then it's just when you die, it's just black and it's meaningless. And it's like, bro, like that's heavy as fuck, first of all. Second of all, it's like, if you're going to believe, this is what I got to break it down to for it to make sense, is the core duality to everything. You know what it is? It's the everything and the nothing. That's as dualistic as you get. Is that
Can't
fair
get
to
one
say?
without the other.
Right. And wouldn't you agree that's the most elemental way to break it down? The
Yes.
everything and the nothing. I mean, if
Yeah.
you can come up with one that's more basic,
right?
Go for
Like
it,
you're
bro.
just saying like every without nothing, there's how would you say it?
Well, I actually believe everything is nothing, and that's a
Oh
crazy one.
Jesus.
And I'll break this down because I'll actually make it make sense. So if so, everything, like every possible thing, is not one single thing. Would you agree with that?
Yes. I don't know. It's weird with existence because what is non-existence?
Well, we'll get to that in a moment. But
Okay.
follow me here. Is like if you think of like if you have everything, like all these different things, there's a lot of different things, right?
Yes.
There's not just one thing. There's a lot of different things. Would you agree?
Yes.
So everything is no one thing. Fair to say?
Yes.
Everything is no one thing. Everything is no thing, no single thing. Everything
Right.
is
Okay.
no thing,
I
nothing.
see what you're doing here.
Right? Interesting.
Right.
And the inverse plays as well. It's
You
like
could
no
group
single
it,
thing is
but
everything.
yeah,
Go ahead.
that's true. I said you could group it, but everything is when you say everything, are you talking about
Infinity.
hmm, I love these discussions.
Most people do not understand infinity. It's something that I feel like I have a pretty good grasp of. I'm happy to elaborate if that's
I would
useful,
love for
but
you to, yeah, go for it.
yeah, most people they don't understand like it. Like, well, first of all, do you agree that infinity exists? I know it does, but would you agree that it exists?
I'm sorry, you cut out. What
Would you agree that infinity exists?
are you talking about? Time or
I'm talking about the concept
space?
of infinity. Does that
Is that
exist?
both?
It includes it and more. So,
Just
what does just the
everlasting.
base concept of infinity, right? Do you? I mean, look, we learn about it in high school math, right? We talk about limits and stuff like that. We
You're
literally
true.
use infinity in the equations in high school.
That's
So,
true.
I would argue that it exists. Is that fair to say?
It does in numbers, right?
Okay.
And
Well,
numbers are real. I mean,
right,
yeah.
right. But the thing is like it's the concept of infinity. Now, this is again where most people misunderstand. So let me help provide a definition. Infinity means that literally every single possible reality must and does exist. Every single possible way to be, every possible object in third dimensional reality, and all the dimensions, they must all exist. There must be infinite dimensions. There must be infinite people and infinite lifetimes. There must be infinite computer mouses, infinite pencils, infinite money, right? Because infinity means everything. So, um, um,
It's
like
hard to,
you
yeah.
cannot imagine something that doesn't exist because
Yeah,
just
that's
by you
true.
being able to imagine it means it exists.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
people get confused because they're like, well, what does it mean to exist? What does it mean to be real? It's like, well, if I can't see it, is it not real? It's like, no, bro, I can't. Like, I don't think for something to exist, like everything exists. That's the thing. It's like being able to like experience it with your five senses is not the only way to know that something exists, in my opinion.
Right.
Just even imagining something like it exists in your imagination, so it does exist.
Right.
So, anyways, I know I'm getting kind of deep in the weeds here, but
No, but it's a hard trail to follow, but I was thinking about when like when you make up something, this is why anxiety is so real. When you think of a moment in your head, right? Like you're anticipating a moment and you're overthinking and being anxious of that moment. Oh my God, are they going to say this? Well, if they say this, I'm going to say this. And if they say, you're actually creating it and you're feeling those emotions while you're thinking it. Like, so it is real. Like thoughts are real because you feel like essentially you feel like you've lived them when you do that. You feel the same
yeah,
emotions, like your heart races if you're thinking about, oh my God, if he says that, then what do I say then? Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like,
it's totally real for the individual.
yeah,
For real, it's real for you. Yeah,
yeah. And that's all that matters, really. And
yeah,
that's why like people hold on to the past a lot, right? Because like, and every time you think of that past moment that either, if it hurts you or help, like it was one of your best moments or worst, you'll feel that same feeling over and over and over again. If you just think of those moments over and over again, it's it's just hard. This whole life thing it's crazy to me. And no one seems to be talking about it. I don't understand that. How is that not the main topic of discussion? Is what is life? You know, what is reality? Like these are good questions to ask, I feel like. And then people throw the term existential crisis. Oh, you're freaking out, you're overthinking. Why are we not thinking about these
It's like, you're not
things?
thinking enough, man.
You're not thinking at all. Oh, what, you observed what the weather was like today? That's like step one. Like, come on, let's talk about something more than that.
Yeah.
It's it's this, I don't know. Why does no one want to talk about it? Because there's no concrete answers, because it's hard to think about.
I think some people are not meant to. That's not their journey. And I think,
Really?
again, that ties back to the new generations. Because, dude, the more I meet people our age, I'm seeing more people. And it's 11:11 right now, by the way, for me. The more time goes on, the more I'm meeting people our age who are at least aware of these ideas. And
I
I think it's
fucking
coming
agree
in
with
greater
that.
numbers. And I personally, like, I've always gravitated towards people like yourself who are into that stuff. So I like to have a tight knit group of people like that. But yeah, man, I completely agree. We need more of it.
Dude,
100%.
when you find someone that like talks like this, you know it instantly. And like you just, I don't know, you just feel like a connection that can't be honestly described. And it's so cool. Like I see it, that it's coming out more in the younger generation. And I'm like, I'm super excited, man. Like I think if more people, like if we start thinking like this, who knows what the future is going to be like. It's going to be
Mhm.
awesome. It's going to be really awesome. And that's why I feel like the way we're living right now is not going to really last long. And when I say long, you know, it could be 100 years, could be whatever, but this is definitely the start of something amazing.
I agree.
I want to catch you. You said meant. You said they're not meant to. Do you like? Is that on? Do you think
Meant
we
to.
have? Like you were like they're not meant to think like that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Do you think we have like a purpose?
Yes. Oh,
You
100%.
believe in purpose
Yeah, service to others is the purpose. Yeah.
for what?
What do you
Like
mean?
what would the purpose be though?
To serve others.
I'm saying like, do you think it's hard to say, do you think that life itself is a journey of learning something or like
Yes.
of doing something? So you think we
Learning
come
is a more
here,
accurate word. Yes.
I would say, yeah, learning. So you think we experience this life as a learning journey or a lesson
Yes.
to be learned?
Yes.
Then well then I would ask you, what's the real life? The soul?
What, what do you mean?
Not real life. Well,
I think it's all real.
right. Well, if there's something to learn,
What is
I
the
guess my
lesson?
soul is learning it, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
What can we just not comprehend our soul after this body dies?
Not to the full extent, but I think we totally can.
By the
To a
way, when
degree,
I'm asking
100%.
these questions, I'm not saying you're wrong at all.
I don't
I'm
feel
just so
wrong.
interested in picking your brain. Like I just want to I want to know what you think, you know?
Pick away,
Like
man.
cuz I just feel like there's so many infinite things that this life could be. Like if you want to look at it super scientifically like you were saying before, scientists believe that you come into this world, you have a brain, you're a human, so you get consciousness, and once you die, that's
Yeah.
it,
It's
zero,
like
done,
random
zip.
chance only. Yeah.
Right, randomness, random chance of this. You know, we're on this floating rock, blah blah blah, in the middle of space. Randomness. That could be the truth. It could be, but is there more to it? Is there more that science can't explain? And most people
100%.
would argue absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would say yes, but
I think one of the best
there's
ways to
no
know it
knowing it.
is
Oh,
personal
let's see.
experience. Personal
Okay.
experience. Because I've personally had experiences where it's beyond a shadow of a doubt that there's far more than this physical reality and what my ego experience of life. Far more. I'll be honest, part of that comes from psychedelics.
I haven't delved into that yet.
I'm surprised.
I know everyone is.
That'll be crazy for you, dude. If you ever do
Yeah.
it, which
I'm
I'm
doing it
sure you
very
will
soon.
eventually.
Yeah. I
dude.
need to experience that.
Well, there you
I'm
go,
so
man. And
curious.
so you shall. That'll be,
Yeah.
dude. If you think you're thinking deeply now, just wait. My goodness.
I
Oh my
know.
God.
Like
Uh,
the only like mind drug I've ever taken is or smoked is marijuana, but
right.
that's it.
I mean
And
that's pretty deep in and of itself. It's a good like a good bridge between
it
worlds.
is, yeah. Yeah, but I feel like I'm at this ceiling though almost, and like I feel like psilocybin and psychedelics or whatever can really knock that ceiling out. I'm really interested. I can't wait.
Yeah,
But
man. And that it like outside of this podcast, like if you ever any questions or anything about that, like I'm your guy for that. I got you.
all right, yeah, I'll definitely ask you for sure.
Um,
But yeah, I just don't know. Like, I don't know. I do believe that like we can believe whatever we want. And I guess that does make it real because we're believing it. Like you said, you like when
mhm.
you're thinking something, it is real. I'm just not sure if anyone really knows anything. You know what I mean?
Knows anything.
Like, I don't know. Like, yes, you believe in what you believe in, right? But it's not necessarily true. But I'm not saying it's not exactly how I just said it. Actually, I'm not saying it's not true, but it's not undeniably true. You know,
I hear you. Yeah.
that's what I kind of believe in. I don't know why. I guess it's kind of, I don't, it's not pessimistic. It's just like neutral, I
Well, you
guess.
know your name is Mark, right?
My human body name. Yeah.
Right. And that's a fact, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Well,
you know something. There's something.
yeah.
I know that fact that your name is Mark. So you know
Yeah.
something.
No, yeah. Yeah. I guess you could say it like that.
I wouldn't say you don't know anything. I wouldn't say that. That's not true.
Oh, yeah. I don't mean it like that. I kind of mean like,
Like you don't know the ultimate truth, the ultimate answer.
yes,
Yes.
that is what I mean. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
God and all that
Well, I
stuff.
don't think we're supposed to learn that here. I don't think
I
it's
don't think we
possible for a
can.
human being to contain that much information. I don't think it's possible. Not in a physical reality. I think it can only be understood on a metaphysical plane, a higher dimensional plane.
You think we get there?
Well, what do you mean by we? You
Like
mean do you
whatever
mean Mark and Oliver, or do you mean our souls and our spirits? Because if
our
it's our souls and
souls.
our spirits, I would say yes. Mark and Oliver, no,
Okay.
because we're more than that. But that's where we're getting to really like it's higher dimensions, the different densities. That's all like a whole nother rabbit hole of really powerful stuff. But I think earlier, kind of what you were to kind of put a bow tie on what we were talking about, I guess you could say, because you were asking about purpose. That's why we got tracked into this conversation, right? And for you, you're not sure about purpose. Is that right?
Yes.
Tell me, like, where's your thought process here?
I don't I'm just not sure that there's like a mission to this life.
No,
I'm not sure of it. No.
oh, that's interesting. You seem very mission oriented with
But I can believe in it when I want to.
okay.
That's the thing. I can be like, all right, yeah, I don't really believe it. Or I could jump right into it. You know what I mean? Like I said, when I feel like we're a story where we're gonna, change everything. And
That sounds
I could
very
fully
purposeful.
believe that. And then I could also pull back from it though and be like, that might be a load of crap
Okay. Well, that's where I think free will kicks in, and then it's up to you. What do you want to do?
to
Because
fulfill
if
that.
we agree, like we agreed earlier, that it's all real, like the anxiety, like if you're having an anxiety experience and you think like a tiger is going to attack you at any moment, is it real? Well, it's real if you're experiencing it, right?
Right.
And we get to have free will to choose which story we choose, right? We can choose the meaningless. It's all fucking whatever, dude. We're just a bunch of fucking random like monkeys on a tiny blip in space. We're all gonna die, dude. That's a story right there.
That
That's a
is.
purpose. That's a purpose of non-purpose in a
Yeah.
way of talking about it. So I think you get to choose, but I think there's a choice, but I also think like, dude, for me at least, I can only speak from my personal experience. Like I find that there's a greater purpose that exists beyond me. And that's something that I can tap into the more I like work on myself and like you know what I mean? Like free up my
Yeah.
heavy bonds to the physical world and I start to connect on that level. I find that I'm connecting to it, if that makes
Right.
sense. And it's like
Yeah.
almost like that purpose was there the whole time. And I'm discovering it, not so much that I'm creating the purpose, but the way that I'm fulfilling it is kind of my own creation. So yeah, it's a lot of gray
Yeah.
in there, which is
You
cool.
can like, you can, you can imagine I guess you could say anything, a place, a lifestyle, a mindset, and go all in on it. And you can really, really experience it. And you could literally bring it into life. Like I said, like if I, if I believe in this revolution to my, like in my core,
Mm.
I can try my damn hardest to make this shit actually happen. Like I guess it's a test of wills, if you must, like,
Yeah.
how far will you go? How, like, will you do it? Like, or will you sit back and just say, yeah, that's a dream. That's a fairy tale. It's really all about doing it, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
And being with the process
Yeah.
beyond doing, but the being with it.
And believing in it. You can do
Yes.
something and not believe in it, and it'll be hell.
Right.
Like,
And you can also believe in something and not do anything about it. And that can also be a form of hell.
yeah. Yeah. There's like a middle ground
Well, you gotta
where
have
you're
both.
believing in it and you're doing it.
Yeah. Will and faith, I think, are two very important disciplines that we must all develop. Is having the faith of whatever it is that we want to create, and then also exercising and strengthening our power of will, our willpower,
It's a great
and
way to
one
put it.
without the other is much more limited.
It's a good way to put it. Do you think so you think it's like a necessity to have faith in something?
Yes. And I don't mean that in the typical context that word is used, which
Yeah,
is
we're
a lot
not
of
talking
times in
about
Christian faith.
religion. Yeah.
It's more like a trust, a deep trust
Okay.
in
Yeah, I got you.
what you want or to create, what you believe in, a higher power, whatever it might be, a better future.
So faith, and then also, what'd you say?
Will.
Will. Yeah, that's what we just said, actually. Yeah. So faith and a will. Yeah, it does add up, right? It's funny when things like really click, you're like, that does make sense. That
Right?
does make sense.
That's what I'm saying. So that's how I feel. That's for me, that exact experience you just had of, oh, it just clicking. That's how I determine truth for myself. Right. And that's how I know that I'm learning, if that makes sense.
No, I actually do agree with that. When you hit that moment of aha, you see it's like it's with such clarity. I feel like
Yes.
that
And
is,
that to me feels a lot more real than the, oh, life has no meaning thing.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
pick your poison, right?
You really do just get to decide what you want to do with this motherfucking life. Like you really, this is a sandbox. I do feel like you just can really pick what you want to do, and or what you don't want to do.
It's true.
And it just depends on if you do it or not. Will.
Yeah. And I think that is one of the biggest lessons we can learn, because essentially what you're saying is you're just realizing that you are the creator,
Right.
which is, if I think I, instead of saying God, I think a better, more accurate term is the one infinite creator,
I like that better. God has
right?
a
Bias,
lot of history and bias towards it.
right? But if we say the one infinite creator, well, realizing that you are the creator in your own way is like, that is a realization of you as God, or you as the ultimate creator,
Yeah,
which
it's
I think that's
true.
beautiful. And then that's how we're all interconnected.
Life, man. Shit's
Yeah, man.
crazy. Shit is crazy.
So that's how I define, that's how I create purpose for myself. That's how, because not only do we want to feel it on an emotional level, but we also want it to make it make sense on a logical, to appease our rational scientific minds, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how I do it. Man, I hope that is helpful for you. I hope that can ground what you're doing, because I really believe like you're doing a really wonderful part of this process, right? And you're documenting your own learning, your own journey, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And And yeah, man, like I think every time you have a conversation with somebody like me or just on your own self, like recording TikToks, like every time you plant a seed, like it matters. And that's planting a seed for that new future. And and actually one of those seeds I kind of want to talk about because I think it's a really cool idea. And I think it's something you're really in alignment with. Is that before this podcast, I saw a TikTok of this woman talking about how like the idea of like of just us teaming up as a human team, but having like a very much a sharing economy, meaning like, for example, like she's the example of cars, right? She's like, I own a car and I use it for about like 30 minutes to an hour a day, but for the rest of the time, it's just sitting there doing nothing, right? So what if like a library where you could just go in and check out, and there's always an infinite, like there's always more books than you could ever read at a library, yet people are constantly borrowing them. What if we were all on the same team to the point where it's like, if I needed a car, I would just go to the local, like I would just go off to the street and find a parked car and just use it and then return it. You know what I mean? Type of thing, put it
Yeah.
back with gas. But we all used everybody's car. It was like it was all a family car. Then everybody would have access to cars. We would have an absolute abundance of transportation. We would never struggle because we're not driving. Most people are not driving all the time.
Yeah.
And you can see just like how, and I think that's a positive orientation, kind of like the tribes before modern society, kind of like what you brought up. Like
Yeah.
there's so much potential in our modern world for that to be a really great success and to be really cool and provide so much value and opportunity to everybody. I'm
Yeah.
curious what you think about that.
It's like a sharing economy in a way, right? That's what it would be. That's what the goal would be, right? We want to, the goal would be to get everyone essentially what they need to live, right? Like, I honestly think property is a natural right, to be honest,
Yeah.
as long as you, I guess, work for it in a way. I hate the word work.
Contribute.
Yeah, contribute. That's the better word. Because work is like, we, somewhere along the line, we've mixed work with play, or no, we've separated work with play, I should say,
Yeah.
where, like actually most tribes or whatever you want to say, foraging societies didn't have a word for work. There was not a word for work. Like, and that just shows you that that is like, work's a mindset, like, oh, I got to work on it. You feel like it's a bad process when really, like, work and play should be the same thing. We should enjoy contributing to each other, to contributing to society. And you were saying with the shared thing, it's that's what we would do, right? We would share and use the least amount of resources from the earth that we need to. I feel like that's where we need to reach a certain middle ground where, because damn, man, we're wasting so much shit. We're wasting so much stuff. Everyone, there used to be one family car. Now there's everyone in the family has a car, just shit like that. And I think that's the future, sharing stuff. Because that's how it used to be, man. Everyone used to share everything. And we do it with our friends. Oh, you want to, yeah, try this out. Here, borrow this book, borrow this movie. Share with your friends like it's no big deal. But just because they're
Mhm.
strangers, you don't share with them. Obviously, there's more like money and shit tied into it. But let's say money wasn't a thing. You would be more than
Yeah.
down to share.
Yeah.
Like
That's
that.
part of the separation consciousness is the money is like a tool for that,
Yeah.
which again, I think goes back to the negative service to self, like divide and conquer. It's all about separation.
Yeah. It's not
And
fun doing it alone.
yeah, it all kind of makes sense when you put it like that.
Life
Yeah.
alone is not fun.
Is there any, like, in terms of that kind of like, if we were going to extrapolate that idea of a sharing economy, like, I'm curious if you have any vision for that or any ideas about what that could look like, or if that sparks anything for you.
Dude, it's like, it's so hard to think of a system. Think of a system. You know what I mean? Like, how the hell do you come up with something so? I think it starts small and then it makes itself. Like, I think capitalism made itself
Mm-hmm.
because obviously the way we're living right now, the person who created it, or the group, whatever you want to say, couldn't imagine that it would evolve to this level. They did not think that it would end up like this. They didn't write the rules that we're living by now. We're constantly changing them, amending them. editing the way money and everything works. Inflation is a great example of that. We're trying to work on this as we have it. And I feel like I don't know how we would start a new way of living because we can't right now. It's impossible to, no, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's so hard to get out of this. Everywhere you go, everyone uses money.
True.
And that's, people call it an energy. Do you agree with that? Do you think money is energy?
Well, dude, I think like break it down to science, like everything is energy.
Right.
Right. We learned that in like middle school science. Right. So yes, it is. I mean, for sure.
I just feel like
In that context.
it's so man-made because it's got so many like
Yes.
issues. You could always tell something is man-made if it's like just because nature is so like nature is, it just is. And you know, there's no defining it really, but I just feel like money is just a made up thing. Like I feel like rent doesn't, or not rent, debt doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
The idea that the money, like, you know, you owe more money as time goes on, and like that doesn't act, that's not actually real. It's just
Yeah.
our
There's no like
concept in our
physical,
head.
there's
Yeah.
no real physical grounding to it.
Right. Like if I give you 20 bucks and I'm like, yo, you owe me like, you know, 10 bucks as time goes on, you're really like, that doesn't actually exist in the real world. We're just, that's us thinking about time and like thinking the value is worth more. I don't know. It's tough, but I just picture like when we said people wouldn't do anything, well, we didn't say it, but people say that no one would do anything without money. And I just disagree with it because I think you'd be so inspired by everyone else pitching in that you would not sit back and do nothing. There's just no way. There's no way. I believe in the human connection so strongly that if you see everybody, if everybody in your town is building this house, you're gonna sit back and do nothing. You're gonna sit there and do nothing while everyone's doing that.
And imagine they're all like your best friends.
Yeah. Yes, that's a better way to put it. Because we need to
How
be more
fun.
connected. Like,
How fun is
how
that?
fun, dude? How fun! Oh my god!
I'll bang some hammers, dude.
Right? Like
I'm
hanging out
down.
with your friends, just living life. Honestly, that's what I picture heaven on earth is like. Is that we can all just come together. You know, I really think when it comes, I have an idea. I don't know if it's like rational or not, but I have this idea where when you pick your trade or your job or whatever you want to call it, you like the person, there should be a group of people who teach how to do the job, and like it shouldn't cost you money to, I guess money wouldn't exist, but
Like college, essentially.
yes, like say I really wanted to learn carpentry. The person who is like who's a master at carpentry would love to teach it because that's what they love doing. And me, in life at least, everyone's trying to figure out what they have a passion for, what they love, you know? That's like the goal. Especially for jobs. You want to do a job that you don't hate, especially like you don't want to hate your job. And you at most you want to love your job. And if you can try to find what you love without the cost of it, you know, it's hard. Like it costs a lot to try new things in this life. You know, if I want to be a doctor, holy shit, I'm going to go into debt, and then I can find out that I don't like it, and then I just wasted all this money, and now I'm kind of forced to do something while I'm trying to learn out like something else. You know, I feel like there's too much not actual tax, but tax in a mental way. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
Financial.
you got what I'm saying here? Picking up
I
what I'm
do.
putting
Yeah.
down.
I think the essence of what you're saying is like the
Yeah,
best way for us to do education is mentorship apprenticeship.
it's definitely
Not
passion.
not paid, but like because I love you and I want to share
Yes,
and teach you
yes,
and I want to learn by teaching you and I want you to teach me by learning.
yes. That is like the best feeling of being a coach. I mean, you're an anxiety coach, right? Like that's the best feeling of being a coach and a mentor or whatever you want to call it, where like you see someone get it and like really understand what you have the passion for, and you see them get it. And that's just like, I can't even describe with words. It's just a really beautiful feeling.
It is. Yeah. You light them up. You feel like you're really contributing to their lives and really helping them. And there's a joy in that learning. Like it's fun. It's everything, man. And I totally agree. Like that heaven on earth is just like, to me, is a society where everybody's best friends. Like
Yeah.
every human, we're all best friends together. And we all just like contribute. We all take care of each other. We all like, you know, we farm the food. We all make it for each other. We all keep the systems going, and we all have plenty of time to spend with our families and our loved ones and do things we love. But we also like, we're not overindulging, right? We're not over engrossing like, oh, I'm worth more than you, so I'm gonna get to do
Right.
more of the stuff that I want to do because I'm more important. It's like there's none of that. It's more so like we all get to help each other to live our dream. And I think when we start to embody that, we find that the real value, just like you said, it doesn't come from a lavish lifestyle. It comes from like spending quality time with your loved ones. That is the highest like fulfillment, I
Yeah.
think. The highest joy
Connection.
you can out of any task or like recreational thing you could ever do. And like I remember seeing this video, one of those YouTube videos, I forget which creator made it, but they were asking a bunch of like elderly people who are like probably a couple years from death, what are your regrets? Right? And almost across the board, they all said, I wish I'd spend more quality time with my loved ones, essentially.
That's
Right?
really what we're here for, man.
Yeah, what
At
does
least
that
it
teach
feels
you?
like it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's just consciousness really trying to just be with like itself kind of in a way. Like it just feels so beautiful to connect with people. Like just share the moment. And we can do that with everybody, I believe. It just
Yeah.
it's going to be a whole different level. It's hard to even comprehend now, but society, the population, everything, we're just going to have to be on a different level, like mentally or consciously, I should say. Like there should just be, there's going to have to be just a complete different look at life, under like an understanding of life that is unprecedented right now. But like,
Higher vibration.
yeah, that's really what it is, actually. Yeah. Like, and it's going to be contagious, I think.
Yes. Yeah,
Because,
people talk about the new earth. I believe it's very real. It's coming. It's already
yeah,
in process.
yeah, I do too. As much, I also say that, you could believe in whatever you want, but I feel that, I feel like you could believe in whatever you want, and then you could also feel like real belief, like,
Yeah.
when you're full of shit, it. You're like, when
Yeah, you know it.
you're like, oh, I believe in that. And then you're like, no, I don't. But you can't deny feeling. Like when I got chills before, you said chills are a good indicator. So true. Cause like you can't stop chills. You get chills and you're like, ooh, like that's how you really felt something in your soul, I guess to say.
It's true. Yeah. And to me, like the soul is the highest source of truth, is our highest connection to truth, right? Because our soul is what's connected to the one creator more than our mind or our body is, I
It's a
would
good
say.
way to put it. Yeah.
So
No,
it's more connected to divine truth. So I I trust it more than I trust my mind and my body, to be honest.
it
Makes sense to me.
does make sense when you put it like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy how like the way you can elaborate words will open up the pathways into thinking that you've never done. It's beautiful. But yeah, man, it's just I think we're gonna get there at some point. I feel like it's inevitable almost. We've stooped pretty low. I don't know how much
True.
lower it can go,
Oh, true.
but we were talking about the generations, right? Like we're very excited for them to come in, and
As
it's
fucked as this
so
is. Ready for the boomers to
it's so
to
fucked. Yeah.
to
Yeah, but
it'd be fucked up to say it's ready for them to die off, but there's some dark humor in there. There's some truth.
yeah,
Um,
we're ready
rest
for
in
them to be
peace.
relieved almost, because
Yeah,
death is so important. Death is so important in on
we're all
earth.
gonna die. Yeah,
Yes. It's so important because it brings in new ideas, new ways of living, new consciousness constantly. Imagine if the professional league, NBA, NFL, had the same players all the time, every time for the rest of forever. The game would never change. It wouldn't really like things wouldn't really, it would just suck. You love these new stars. You love like we love that. That's change. That is essentially what we do on Earth. We just get new rosters all the time and they have new ways of playing the game. And
Yeah.
I think we're starting to realize a new way of playing this game is coming up.
Fuck yeah, man. I believe everybody should be growing vertical gardens in their backyard.
Yeah, I actually like that a lot too.
I think that should be like a new thing that we all do.
I also think it's really funny that we've been sold on the idea of green lawns, like green grass lawns on your front lawn when you could easily have gardens, supplying
Oh,
your
I see.
own food.
Right.
But no, the green grass, it looks nice. That means you
Yeah.
have a proper house.
Right. Right. Well, dude, you got to have some green space at least to ground your feet in. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, that's true.
But dude, I think there's so many different changes that you could say need to make, but like would be very beneficial. And like that one was kind of silly, but also really positive. The one I mentioned about like vertical gardens, like you can literally make them out of plastic jugs for like pennies
Yeah.
on the dollar. Right. And it's like you can grow tons of produce just like that. And there's people that literally, like I saw a guy on TikTok that his full-time job is growing microgreens, just
What is
those little
that?
like microgreens are basically like the baby plant version of like normal vegetables. So it's like these just like a little like stem and like a little leaf on top, but they're edible. People use them like salads
Hmm.
and everything. And that's his full-time job. But like we could all be doing that. And it's cheap, it's easy. Anybody can afford to do that. It's more about just have a little bit of extra space. And just like you can grow food like that. And like there's just so much potential. Like it would not be hard to do it. The issue is like things like electricity, right? Like the internet and electricity is so foundational to our life and is completely intertwined with the financial economy.
So true.
Though, because when you said like it's so difficult to change, I think that's one of the reasons why is like our energy, our power sources are controlled by the capitalist governments and entities. And that would, that's one of the biggest hurdles.
Right. Like I wonder this. What would happen if all of our cellular devices and Wi-Fi and everything went down?
We'd be fucked, bro. I've thought about this a lot. That's the easiest way to start an apocalypse, in my opinion, is an
What?
EMP.
Like,
Yeah.
what do we do? What? And this sounds funny probably to older people that are like, oh, these kids can't survive without the internet. No, it's quite literally everything now. Like
The whole food supply
everything.
chain, grocery
Yeah,
stores.
everything. Everything is run on the internet and
Your
we're
heating and
not in
cooling.
control of it at all.
Yeah.
So like I don't even know how would you listen, I don't even know how we got the internet to start with. The whole idea that we had this regular earth, just natural earth and we created Bluetooth or things like that. No clue how that works. But I don't even understand how we can get like unless it wasn't controlled by everyone, public Wi-Fi and like cellular stuff and like
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. It's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to the change in vibration that's necessary to accommodate those kinds of potential futures.
Like
But I
those
think it's
people, yeah.
totally real.
Oh,
I think it's totally achievable, man.
I think so too. Do you think Elon Musk is for the people?
No.
No. You think he's
I
another corporate guy putting on a
yes.
good guy show?
It's so funny you asked that, dude, because there's this YouTuber called Moon who makes videos just like really thought-provoking, well-made videos, kind of just like exposing a lot of the bullshit in society. And I learned from him that Elon Musk has done some really shady things. Now, I used to be like so many people, even probably people who are your fans, are like Elon Musk, like fanboys and fangirls, and like think he's like fucking the messiah. But like when you actually learn more about his past, you realize some things. He's actually quite the liar. And to share with you, like he often spins this story about how he started from nothing and it was really struggle and he was like running out of money and he like made it happen, like an entrepreneur on himself. That's a lie. His father was a multi-millionaire who paid for all of his college and gave him a bunch of startup money. Right? Huge advantage, right? I'm sure he had all the connections through there. Also, when he was creating PayPal, which he calls himself the founder of PayPal, he wasn't the founder of PayPal. He came in to help, but he was not a founder. Part of how he kept PayPal alive, do you know what he did?
No.
Is he closed small accounts and seized people's money without telling them, literally stealing people's money because they had it in their like contract when you signed up. And they would just literally rob from the poor to keep their company alive. And that was Elon Musk's directive. Wow, what a good guy, right?
Wow.
What a for the people, right? Amazing. Also, he wasn't the founder of Tesla. He lies about that too. He calls himself the founder. But the original guys are some really intelligent engineers who created it. They were the founders. And again, Elon Musk came in as like a guy to like run as like a CEO. And like, I'm pretty sure, like, I think in PayPal, like Elon Musk got like fired a couple of times because he was such a terrible boss. Like everybody hated him because he was such an asshole and he was really like doing some evil stuff. But he kept getting power back, and then he would just like fire the people. Like he literally fired the founders of Tesla, the engineer guys, and kind of like screwed them over. And he cut out their history as the founders. Like he erased it from their website and shit. You know what I mean?
Well,
so
not in a way like Zuckerberg with Facebook, right?
What do you mean?
You ever see a Social Network?
Yeah. With those the two college guys. But do you know how much money they made? I can't feel bad for them because they're billionaires.
Yeah.
Because they got a huge settlement and then they invested in Bitcoin and before it blew up. So yeah, they're billionaires. Not feeling bad for them, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think about Elon. Like I'm like, we like I feel like we all think that he's the I don't know. I feel like literally right now, when you have like the most money in the world, you are like dictator almost. Like you can own anything and you can change everything almost. Like
yeah,
actually insane.
And that's part of the issue with the system is that if you want to enact really influential change, one of the best ways to do it is to be filthy rich.
Yes.
Now, to get filthy rich, it's almost impossible without really like not caring about screwing people over, taking advantage of others, like we said, enslaving other people's labor and time and energy. Yeah. And it's like, it's almost impossible to get to those levels. Now, there are ways to become wealthy and what most people consider rich without really doing that, I believe, in an equitable ways. But we're talking about billionaire status, and that I don't think is possible.
I agree.
In a totally like ethical way, in my opinion.
Yeah. You have to like really do stuff like to get to that level. Like you really gotta have a lot of people work for you, and it gets out of control.
There's a lot of sharks at that level too. There's a lot of fucking sharks. And if you don't know how to navigate the waters as a shark yourself, you'll often get eaten up. Happens all the time. It's nuts, man. But I also think like there's so many people in like the side hustle grind mindset, like all that shit. There's a whole like niche of those people. And a lot of them, they like glorify the idea of like becoming a multi-millionaire, big billionaire person. Like even the song by Bruno Mars, I want to be a billionaire. Like, how many times have we sung that song, not even like realizing what we're saying? It's a catchy song, but like if your goal is to be a billionaire, like that is your goal, what does that say about who you are?
Right. How much do you need? Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I often get like, I'm just not motivated by money because I don't need much at all. So like it's hard to like really care about making a lot of money. And you can't have that mindset in this society because like it doesn't get you anywhere.
What do you do for work, by the way?
Bro, I serve like food and alcohol.
Right.
And then I do this on the side and I want to make this like kind of like my main thing. But yeah, it's just crazy, man. I used to want to be like, originally I went to college and I got a business degree because I thought anybody could do business. Then I just realized that I don't believe in selling really, because like unless it's something I really believe in, but most people sell shit they don't even believe in. And I can't do that. I can't do that.
I know, bro.
So I dropped out of that. Changed my degree to history and education. Want to be a history teacher. Hate the school system. Can't teach what I want to teach, or not what I want to teach, but like, their fucking guidelines and shit
Passing on
like that.
propaganda and
Yeah,
traumatizing
like,
children. Yeah.
yeah, no. So not doing that. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna drop out and I'm gonna try to just find myself. And I kind of stumbled. I made this account originally for gaming. I love video games. Fucking love video games. And then
Rock
I
the bang.
started like, yeah, and then I started to make my it's my gamer tag. Started to make my videos where like I was just talking because I realized I had a passion for it. And then that started to do well. And then here we are. I was like, oh shit, I kind of like this. This is pretty cool. I know I like what I'm delving into here. I keep saying delving. I'm not sure if delving's the word. Um, but yeah. And then so I got to find a way to make a lot like more money, obviously, if I want to have a bigger impact, help out certain organizations and things like that.
Yeah, man. And I think even like there's value in like if you want to pursue doing like being a creator full time, like finding ways to set up, I don't know if you have like donation links and stuff like that, but setting up whatever that is for you, right? Like maybe, merch. I don't know if you sell merch or not. I mean, you've got a
I was
hoodie,
thinking
but
about it.
yeah, I think you
Yeah,
should,
this is a
man.
one of one. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Same here. Like, right? Like this is a one of
Yeah, I
one, but
walk around in this all day.
I think it's a great look, man. Why not
Thanks.
just put up a quick Shopify store, right? Because with how many followers you have, I'm sure people will buy it because you're gonna have fans who really love what you do and like want to rep that stuff because they identify with what you speak on. And dude, I think that looks pretty dope, to be honest.
Thank you. Dude, actually, this is so funny you said this. I have an
Yeah,
idea that
man.
for the future, I'm gonna release like a clothing line. I don't know what it's gonna be, but or merch, whatever you want to call it, where like if you see someone, because like I said, the people that talk about things like this are very hard to find. Very hard to find. You gotta like really get in conversation to kind of get to this level. And if like you see them wearing something of that in public, you'll be like, oh my God, that person's like me. Let's go be friends. And then,
Yeah.
you start linking up with people, and I think it could be really cool. So I think like I would definitely want to do that in the future.
Dude, I love it. I think it's a great idea. And yeah,
I
you
don't
make
know
a
what it'd
great
be
point with
called,
that
but
too.
yeah.
Yeah, you make a great point. Yeah, dude, I think you should, man. I would. I mean, maybe you ask, you even make a video, ask like, hey, do you guys want this, and see what kind of
Right.
responses you get. Why not? Right. And would be a way to supplement you financially and allow you to make more content, to be more of service.
Right.
Like for me, I'm a coach, right? I've got a program and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother topic, is like how to do that ethically. And this is what I want to talk
Yes.
about right now. Cause like there are very, like you said, there are very few people who really get this. And what I'm going to share, and I know you do, is like, it is when you are an awake and conscious individual, it is so hard to navigate financial success without
Yes. Oh
sacrificing
my
your
God.
morals. It
Yes.
is so
Yes.
fucking hard. One of the easiest examples is like investing in the stock market. Most people, they don't think much about it. They're just like, okay, well, how can I make a smart decision so that my money will grow? That's as far as most people think. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, when you realize that a lot of these big, like for example, like a big, like Walmart, or maybe that's not even the best example, but like, I don't know, like let's just say like a candy manufacturer, like I don't know, what's the company?
Hershey's.
Hershey's, right? So you want to invest in Hershey's. Well, it's like if you understand that like candy is really bad for the body and like we get kids addicted to it and it's like really toxic and things like that, like you start to realize that like, oh, we're like poisoning ourselves, like, right? Like all this corn syrup and all this stuff, like it's poison, and like Doritos and all this processed stuff. It's like, so if you're going to invest in that company to just try to make some return, you are literally like rewarding that. But the thing is all the biggest corporations who are the best to invest in are the ones who are exploiting the most. That's why they're as
Yes.
successful as they are. So you get into a fucking conundrum where it's like, God damn, I want to just like invest my money so that I can create financial freedom for myself. So I'm good, so that I can focus on, purpose and helping others and obviously enjoying life as well. But like, there's a moral like issue there. And I've never heard people talk about this, but it's so real. And like, I'm facing that.
So
I'm
glad
like,
you said this.
dude, like, fuck, like,
Because
and
oh,
like
I'm
one
not
big one
helping
is like,
them. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, just like one other big one too is like medical. Like I'm a big like a lot of these like medical manufacturers and stock picks and like that are set to really explode, but they're like literally like robbing people and like poisoning people. And it's like, how can you support that?
Yeah. Then you think, all right, well, I'm not like most people will say, all right, well, I'm just investing in the company. I'm not like supporting what they do. You're literally giving them money. You are supporting it. You are. And it's like, I'm talking about offshore fucking, like labor. Jesus, that's a whole nother thing.
Like,
Like,
did you hear about the M&M thing?
no.
Oh my god, you didn't hear about, so you know how they like, I don't know if you see the M&M changed the look of their green M&M, the lady looking
I've
one.
seen that. Yeah.
They did that to cover up a scandal with their company that they're exploiting child labor in like
No
South
way.
America for the cocoa plants. Yeah, dude, that's why they did it. And all the influencers are like, look at the green M&M, blah, blah, blah.
Oh
It's like
my
smash,
God.
bro, smash. And the whole time, like they just cover up the scandal. Like, I mean, talk about Ghislaine Maxwell and her trial. You didn't hear shit about that,
Wow.
right? They covered that up. No, you hear
I don't
about
know what
Joe
that
Rogan being a
is.
racist. That's what you hear about.
Yeah. What do you, who'd you just say?
Ghislaine Maxwell,
Haven't heard of it.
Jeffrey Epstein's like main girl.
Oh, I think I've heard some of this.
Yeah, his main recruiter. Yeah, she
Yeah,
went to
she
trial.
was, yes. I'm sure she got off, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. And yeah, so yeah,
Oh
we got some
man.
issues here, but yeah, I still, even through all of that, I feel such a strong optimism and like I feel such a strong belief. And honestly, getting to meet people like you and have these conversations, like there's nothing that instills a deeper sense of like trust and hope and like positivity for the future, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Uh, I just feel like people, if we keep passing these ideas down generation to generation, people are not going to get to that level that these corporations are at. I feel like where like, I mean, they could, because the rich just hang out with the rich, really. But I just wish we can get rid of like classes, honestly. It's,
yeah.
the whole idea of it is insane. And yeah, we're in quite a situation here. Quite a
Yeah, the class
situation.
system is a hierarchy.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And hierarchies are inherently negatively oriented.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Nothing
that's
really ever good came
any
out of
kind of
hierarchies.
hierarchy. No,
Yeah.
it's true. And the big one is like status. This is where
Yeah.
most people are hopelessly like stuck in that mindset. And it's so toxic. Um, because it's an never-ending black hole. You never have enough.
Yeah. I hate the whole idea of social status is
It's
like you
bullshit,
said,
man.
so toxic. Yeah. And like a lot of people, it's actually has to do with social anxiety, kind of like
Yes.
social status in the way like people really can let it eat them alive sometimes, like both in a bad way where they can be like, oh my God, this is who I am because everyone thinks that of me. Or they can like buy into it really negatively. You know what I mean? But
Yes.
like, this is who I am. And, keep doing things like that in a bad way. It's just it's a totally a human construct, totally an idea in our heads that we have this, social status.
It's fiction, man. It's made up, like you said. And yeah, dude, big part of the reason people struggle with social anxiety is because what they're constantly comparing themselves to everybody and
Yeah.
oftentimes judging themselves as less than. They are putting themselves at the bottom of the hierarchy or below others. Now, the hierarchy doesn't even exist. People don't realize that. It's totally made up. Well, I mean, it exists, right, based on an earlier definition, but it's not. It's not the ultimate truth. It's a construction.
Yes.
And what I've really learned to, because, and part of it is like, for example, my old mentor, like he is literally, the most successful business wise men's dating coach in the world. And I got to meet him and, go to his mansion in the Hollywood Hills and like somewhat befriend him. and I got to see status at the highest level, right? Hollywood, in the hills, mansion, hot girls, fucking this and that.
Classic movie shit. Yeah.
Right. And I got to see what it was really like and who these people really are. And I see, holy shit, these people are like really selfish. These people are not who they present themselves to be. They're not happy. They're not fulfilled. They don't feel spiritually really fully in alignment. And I don't envy that. But it's hard because most people don't really understand that that's not it. That's not what they're really looking for. And so they, and we've been programmed those beliefs since we were in school, right? Like fucking the school system has hierarchies.
It
Like
does.
great grades are an example of that.
Literally.
And then
Yeah, I always thought grades are ridiculous.
Sports teams, very hierarchical.
All right.
All of it. So it's something that's so ingrained and most people don't realize is a load of bullshit. And when you free yourself, which I really believe I have, like for the most part, like when I'm meeting people, I'm not like, oh, are you high status? I'm like, no. Do I resonate with you? Like, do I want to, you know what I mean? Like, it's more of like a you know what I mean? Like it's a sad thing I see a lot of people stuck in, because when you free yourself from it, like that's when everybody can be your friend and like you can really truly be yourself, because you're not trying to be somebody that is seen as high status. You're not trying to be somebody who you think you're supposed to be, that is like a one-way ticket to feeling not good enough.
Yeah.
It's trying to be somebody you're not, to please others or to be seen as high status. That is a one-way ticket to depression and feeling like you hate yourself and not even knowing who you really are. And that's a lot of pain, to be honest. But when you just let go of that shit and you just be like, hey, I'm a human being. Like, we're all human. Nobody's better than anybody else. We're all the same. And you realize, hey, look, we're all on the same team, which is like a fundamental worldview, I believe, that we need to start developing.
I agree.
And yeah, anyways, I could go on and on about that, but I've been talking a lot. Is there anything you?
No, you're good. I love hearing you go on a little orchestra there. It's funny you said the boss. They're like the boss. You know, like the whole when you're in the presence of your boss, you got to respect your boss. Fuck that. Fuck that. Earn my respect. I don't care what position you have. Let's just be humans, right? Like, I think the idea of business, like culture, I guess, is so toxic. It pisses me off. Like, oh, a boss can't be friends with a person below an employee after work. They can't hang out because there's, it's business. If anything, you would want your boss to be your best friend because you are literally living your lives together every single day. And just having a stronger connection will make it more enjoyable, and you will then actually work even harder or better or more efficiently. Like, it just makes no sense. Like, oh, I should hate my boss. Yep, that makes sense. Yep, that'll make me really want to do the job and come into work. And no, dude, like, no, we're all humans. Fuck the status. Just respect each other. Or let's see if you earn my respect. And then I will respect you as you think you should be.
Right. No, for sure. And like, and I think that mindset of like wanting people to earn your respect, like I get it, but like maybe we just respect each other by default. And it's not like people have to live up to my standards, but it's more so just like, I accept you for who you are and where you're at. And,
that's what I mean. Like, yeah,
myself. Yeah.
A more flat line of respect, not like a mountain where like they need to,
Right. Well, it's more boundaries is what you're saying. It's like if people are just going to treat you badly, you're just not going to put up with it.
Right. Like if you're not, giving me common decency things that I, just a nice hello, just like things, things that you expect. Yeah, the basics. You think I'm going to respect you on like a level like that? Oh, of course not.
Yeah.
That's all.
And roles are important, right? Like if you're building a team, you want to have somebody who's a treasurer and a director and a this and a that, and even like an assistant. But an assistant is not beneath the director.
Yes.
Right? We're just specializing so we can all work more effectively as a team, not because somebody's more important than somebody else. Right?
Yeah.
So It's just a reframe.
It's the way we look at it, for sure. Yeah, the perspective is important. And we got to realize we're all part of, like you said, team. We're on a team. We're all human. We're all like, there is no this person's more important, because without the other person, then guess what? This shit doesn't like go. Like everyone needs to be a part of this in order for us to really do it. And no one's more important than the other. Like no puzzle piece is more important than the other one. You need every one, because you know what happens when you miss one? It fucking sucks. Can't complete it. Nothing's worse than a missing puzzle piece. So like, and not one puzzle piece is more important than the other. I think
That's a good analogy.
All right, that is crafty.
I'm sure the corner pieces would have something to say about that, though.
Oh, the corner pieces are hierarchical bitches.
Those bastards.
They are important, though.
Yeah, dude.
Is there anything you want to ask me or anything? Or I'm trying to think if I want to ask you anything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's been a really good podcast today. We've covered a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's been really enjoyable, man.
Hard to really control where you go, but that's the thing of organic conversation. It really can just fucking go anywhere. Putting in a box and saying, all right, we're only talking about this is really limiting.
I agree. And I think honestly, the few podcasts I do enjoy from time to time, typically they're more open-ended. They're just people just sharing authentically. That's the way I like to do it. It's more real. I think people connect to it more.
I agree. It's so important to be vulnerable we'll end with this.
Cool.
I love that you shared your story in the beginning of this podcast, because it's so fucking important to show that you are human, that you're just another person. You're another human out there that endures the same struggles as we all do. And like on the internet and being a creator, especially, it's so important to just show that you're real, you're like all of us. And those people usually are the people that I guess you're not like, it's hard to really put it into words kind of, but a lot of people show an image, right? And that's not really them, but it gets attention and they get a following, and that's not really them, but
yeah,
you can tell when someone's like that. You could just tell. I don't know. They give it away. But when you don't put any boundaries up and you show your true self, that's when more people are willing to open themselves up to you in a way.
Yeah, dude, I completely agree. My girlfriend just bought me a sandwich. This is the best day ever. This is great.
Every day is a great day. I just realized today, the 4/12/22 has never happened. Today is the first day. Today is the only day actually it's ever going to be 4/12/2022. So enjoy your day, sir.
Likewise, every reason to celebrate. And fine, and to wrap as well, I want to wrap with just like reiterating, like, I think the topic, the idea of service to self and service to others, I think that is so foundational for all of the changes that we want to see in society. And for each individual listening to this, their own spiritual path and their own journey throughout life. And I think that's really worth some contemplation, to sit down and really think about how that applies to your life and how you can use that perspective as a tool to guide you to where you want to go and what you want to create as an individual, as we are creating as content creators and as humans creating this conversation so far. So I hope everybody who has listened has thoroughly enjoyed listening. It's been my pleasure to be on the Esoteric podcast. This guy's awesome. And if anybody wants to follow me on TikTok, my handle is Coach Oliver Lynch, straight up Coach Oliver Lynch. Like I said, I'm a social anxiety coach. That's most of my content there. However, I do talk about more concepts around spirituality, self-development, healing, all those types of things. So if you guys are interested in that, go for it. It would be my honor for you to be a follower of mine. And hope I can provide you guys with some useful tools, some more value, and some fun, thought-provoking content. But yeah, man, thank you so much for having me on the show, dude.
Dude, it's been a pleasure, dude. Thank you for reaching out.
Absolutely.
It's been dope. All right, man. Have a great day, all right?
Yeah, you too.
All right, take care. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Esoteric Podcast. There's actually a feature that you might not be aware of, that you can actually send me voice messages and I can respond to them during an episode. So you can actually send me them on anchor.fm/the Esoteric podcast and send me some messages and I'll answer some of them. Once again, thank you guys for listening and stay tuned for the next episode.